Hey guys, I'm Riley Ott, and in today's video, let's check up on Nick Walker. Now, it seems like just a few months ago, everyone was clowning on Nick Walker, including me, who made a video criticizing Nick Walker. But I feel now we've seen so much activity and changes in Nick Walker that he needs to be brought back into the discussion of the bodybuilding scene. So now, why was everyone making fun of Nick Walker? The last time Nick Walker competed at an Olympia was 2022, where Nick Walker took third place. 2023, he tore his hamstring during contest prep and had to pull out. No one really had a problem with that, but the problem came when he pulled out of the 2024 Olympia. Nick Walker posted a video saying he would be pulling out of the 2024 Olympia because his body wasn't responding properly. But in that video, it didn't even really look like he had been dieting. It looked like he was way further out from the show than he actually was. Now, in my opinion, I didn't care that he pulled out of the Olympia. I care that he committed to being there. He was on the roster of people to be there. So people were buying tickets to go see Nick Walker. Imagine you're just a normal person and this is your favorite bodybuilder, so you travel to the Olympia to see him come back after being off for a year. You purchased your flight tickets, you purchased your ticket, you got your seat, you're all excited, and then he pulls out. Well, you're not going to get a refund. And generally, my problem was it's not like he was injured that he couldn't compete. He didn't want to compete because he felt like he wasn't at his best, but he already committed to being there, so I feel like he should have been there. After the video I made, it started to look like the blame was getting shifted towards Matt Jansen, his coach. Now, at the time of making that video, I actually wasn't too familiar with Matt Jansen. I knew he coached a couple of the bigger guys, but I had never looked into him as a coach specifically. Now, was he a good bodybuilding coach? I would say yes. But was he a great coach? No, not at all. And although the athlete needs to take some responsibility for a bad prep, a lot of that can be put on the coach if the athlete is truthfully listening to everything the coach has to say and the coach is giving them bad advice. Now, why am I bringing Nick Walker up now? So there's 3 reasons I want to talk about and why I think Nick Walker should be back in the conversation for bodybuilding. First, Nick Walker has announced that he will be competing at the Pittsburgh Pro. I'll play the video so you can see the announcement so you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, obviously I plan on doing Pittsburgh, so.
The Berg, and then are we doing New York Pro if we win?
That's up in the air. I'm not going to say no to it. I'm not going to say yes to it and get everyone's hopes and dreams held high here.
That Pittsburgh show is supposed to be like a badass show / expo this year.
Oh yeah, they're doing it big. And the reason why I did not do the Arnold, because everyone keeps calling me a pussy, I didn't feel I was going to be ready for it, to be honest. And I don't think, obviously, I honestly didn't think me, Kyle, or any of us knew my size was going to come back as fast as it did.
Yeah, crazy.
And then some, because I feel like I'm bigger than what I have been.
Now, in this video, he says, oh, people are calling me a pussy for not competing at the Arnolds. People are calling me a pussy. Now, really, we're really going to call Nick Walker a pussy for not competing at the Arnolds? Look at the lineup at the Arnolds. You have Samson Dauda, who's the current Mr. Olympia, and you have Derek Lunsford, who was last year's Olympia and took 3rd place at this year's Olympia. And for Nick Walker to prepare for the Olympia, he would have had not nearly enough time. He would not have had the time to prepare for the Arnold like he says in this video. Now, what show does he have time to prepare for? The Pittsburgh Pro. And the Pittsburgh Pro is not a sissy show. That is a very difficult show to win. Now, we're not sure of the lineup yet at my time of recording this, but I'm sure it will be a stacked lineup that Nick Walker will have to fight for 1st place. So Nick Walker's to compete at the 2025 Pittsburgh Pro. He is back in the competitive scene, so I'm very excited to see where he places during that showing. So now, Nick Walker's coach, Matt Jansen, retires, so he is coachless. He needs to find a new coach for these contest preps. Now, who's his new coach that he finds? Well, Kyle Wilkes. Now, Coach Kyle is one of the best coaches in the bodybuilding scene. If the name sounds familiar, I feel a lot of people have been talking about Coach Kyle because he coached the Trend Twins for their bodybuilding show. Now, the connection between the coach and the hat, that was a complete accident. But the Trend Twins are just one of the most famous of the people he's coached, but there's so many athletes he's coached, I'm not going to get into listing them. Needless to say, Coach Kyle is going to put Nick Walker on a much better trajectory than Matt Jansen ever would have. But wait, there's more, because the other person Nick Walker has seemingly been working with is Jared Feather from RP Strength. Now, Jared Feather is part of the RP brand. The face of that brand is normally Dr. Mike Israetel, but Jared Feather is actually Dr. Mike's coach, his bodybuilding coach. Or at least to an extent. Obviously, Mike's very smart and does some stuff himself, but... And there's been some very interesting videos of Nick working with Jared Feather and seemingly taking in a lot of information and listening. And that's what I love to see with a client and a coach to help them bring the best package. With Kyle and Jared in his corner for coaching, I feel like that is two of the best guys you could have in your corner. Like, that is a recipe for success. So he's competing in a very difficult show coming up. He just started contest prep. He's working with some fantastic coaches. He just posted a physique update today. So let's take a look at that. So now, obviously, this is not the greatest comparison because we are comparing Nick Walker one day into contest prep to stage ready. So obviously on stage, he's completely pumped up. He just went through peak week. He's got the perfect tan. I mean, everything is perfect compared to this other picture of day one where he's just like standing on his balcony. So I'm going to use my laser eyes and try to analyze this and make a fair enough comparison between the two. Now, Nick Walker has always had great shoulders and arms and a great chest. He's always had a very full upper body. The 2 points of critiques he's had is his legs and his abdominals. Now, Nick Walker definitely gets shredded. It's not so much a problem of seeing his abdominals, it's how wide his waist is. Now, is there things you can do to change how your waist looks to your shoulders? Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you can take different substances, which you can't talk about on YouTube. You could try to make your shoulders wider, but in a case of Nick Walker, when his physique's already so developed, that's kind of off the table. You can change your posing a little bit, so like in your front lat spread, you bring the sides in so your torso looks smaller. But overall, Nick Walker has done almost everything he can to do with his midsection. So I would say that that's just going to be his Achilles heel, and there's no improvements he can make there. And even if he did make improvements there, we wouldn't see the improvements right now at the beginning of his contest prep. We'd only see it on stage. But the thing to say about Nick Walker here is the improvements he's made in his legs. It is truthfully a substantial difference. Now, he's had 2 years to build his physique, so you would expect him to have made improvements, but he did tear his hamstring, so that can definitely set you back a ways. Now, in this most muscular shot, and this is the only physique update we have, obviously we don't see the depth of his legs, so we can't see like the improvements or possibly even loss he's made in the hamstrings, but his quad sweep is crazy. I mean, his quad sweep is so much bigger. He's made substantial improvements to the legs, and I would even argue to say his abductors might have put on size. Now, he could just carry a lot of extra weight there in the off season, but I see a lot of muscle there, and I think there's some abductor growth in there too. They don't judge calves in bodybuilding really anymore. I mean, it's cool to have big calves. His calves look about the same, but that's not something to really be compared. But quads and abductors in this shot, it's a noticeable difference. Now, if Nick Walker makes it back to the Olympia in 2025, what's the plan? What's the goal? What are we going to see? I do believe we would see the best version of Nick Walker we've ever seen. But Samson Dauda has the kind of physique that once he got to that stage and we finally saw him fully shredded, which we really hadn't seen before, he was peeled this time, and he started to fill out his frame completely, I don't know if Nick Walker could stand next to Samson Dauda. Do I think Nick Walker could beat Haughty? Probably not. But I do think there's a very good discussion to be had about Nick Walker being able to beat Derek Lunsford. I would almost bet that Nick Walker would beat Derek Lunsford. And as you can see, Nick Walker's still making improvements. I feel like Haughty's almost maxed out his physique. He's grown the most muscle he can. He's got the leanest he can. I don't really think there's much more he can do with his physique. I do think Haughty should have won the 2024 Olympia. That was my personal opinion. But in this case, Nick Walker is looking to be a pretty big threat coming into the 2025 year. But that's about all I wanted to talk about. I wanted to compare these pictures. Nick Walker's made a lot of improvements with Coach Kyle and Jared Feather. He's definitely got some good coaching going for him, and he's going to be competing in a really big show. So this is a very big year for Nick Walker, and I'm very excited to see what's to come. Now, obviously, Nick Walker does not care what I have to say. I am not even 1% of what Nick Walker is. But someday, if I ever get to that point, Nick Walker, forget about that first video. I'm cheering for you. If you want to see me make a video on the Pittsburgh Pro, let me know and leave it in the comments. Leave a like. If this video does really good, I'll plan that in the future so I can make a video on that and deliver it to you guys. Otherwise, I've been Riley Ott. Go subscribe here. I do my best to get content out. I feel like each video is getting even better, but if you want to see more consistent posts, go follow me on Instagram. I post every single day, and I'm very interactive with the community. And until next time, I am out. Peace.